everyone, welcome to day 6 of your 30-day Pilates challenge. Today is our first whole body workout, so we're going to have a little bit more of a flow, move a little quicker in today's workout. I'm so excited for you to get started. Let's go.
We're going to start with an articulating bridge. So you're going to roll up through your spine and then roll down through your spine. You're going to exhale as you roll up, inhale as you roll down. This is your articulating spine here. So we're working on that spinal mobility. I want you to really focus on one vertebrae leaving the mat at a time. And then as you lower, one vertebrae lowers onto the mat, one at a time. So you're rolling up and you're rolling down. Making sure that first action is that pelvic tuck underneath you to roll up. And then that very last action is the pelvis going from that tucked position all the way back to neutral. Make sure you're pushing your arms into the mat, pressing your feet into the floor. We're going to bring your hands behind your head. You're going to exhale up into your chest lift and then inhale back down. Keeping your elbows nice and wide. Make sure you're lifting from your core and not your neck. I want the whole upper back lifted all the way to the tips of your shoulder blades. Start to add that twist. Twist right, twist left, and then lower down. So you exhale, lift up. Now rotate left, center, right, center, and lower down. We're going to the right next time. So you're just alternating each time. We're getting into those obliques here. Keeping your pelvis nice and still. I don't want any movement through the lower half of the body. We're just rotating from that mid-upper back area. Reach your arms forward, palms to the ceiling, little pulses up and up. All from the belly here. The core is lifting you higher. Keep breathing, lower back down. From here, we're going to come into another set of bridging. This time it's flat back bridging, also known as neutral bridging. So your spine is staying strong. You're just lifting your hips up and then hinging from the hips to lower down. Press your hips to the ceiling and then drop them to the floor. Let's come into calf raises. You're lifting your heels up, then lowering your heels down. As you're lifting and lowering the heels, try to keep the rest of the body nice and still. Your core is hugging in tight to support the spine. Float your arms up to the ceiling. Pulse your hips up. Up. Option to keep the arms down. Option to lower the heels. Find what works for you. Keep pulsing those glutes up. Good. All right, let's go ahead and lower the heels. Reach the arms back behind you. Roll your spine back down onto the mat. You're going to reach your arms back to the ceiling. Roll up through your spine. 3 calf raises. Lift your heels. 3, 2, 1. Big stretch as you reach the arms all the way back behind you. Roll your spine down. Create space through the back body. Float your arms to the ceiling. Roll back up to your bridge. 3 calf raises here. Lift. 3, 2, 1. Again, reach the arms back. I want you to create space through the spine as you roll down. Arms come back up to the ceiling. Rolling back up to that bridge. Keep feeling the thigh bones pulling long up to that high diagonal. Fingertips reach to the wall behind you. All right, from here, we're going to come into some marching of your legs. You're going to lift the right leg and then lift the left leg, one at a time. You're lifting the leg from your core. So we're connecting to your deep core muscles, your transverse abdominals that wrap around the torso. And then you're squeezing in tight. Let's come back up to that bridge and do bridge marching now. So the same lift and lower of the legs, but now we're challenging the position a little more. I want you to think about keeping your pelvis nice and still. Minimal shifting side to side. You're trying to keep your body as centered as possible as you move from one leg to the other leg. Rib cage stays knitted, and then lower yourself back down with control. Bring your right leg to tabletop, left leg to tabletop, arms to the ceiling. From here, you're going to exhale, lift to your chest lift. Inhale, lower. We're coming into our series of 5 next. On this next one, lift up to that chest lift, hug the right knee in, and switch. Single leg stretch here. Lower the head if you need that modification. You're squeezing in from the belly here. Hug the knees in, lower the head down. Gently look over your right shoulder, gently look over your left shoulder. Just give that neck a quick break. Curl back up into that chest lift. Reach into that double leg stretch and back in. The arms and legs reach apart. Circle the arms, hug the knees. Keep drawing your belly button down to the floor here. Again, modification, just do the lower half of the body. And then lower down. Again, gently look over your right shoulder, look over your left shoulder. No tension here through the neck. One more, curl back up to that chest lift, straight leg stretch here. Pulse, 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 pulse. Legs are pulling into that hamstring stretch here. You're trying to keep that chest lifted all the way up to the tips of your shoulder blades for single straight leg stretch. And then hug the knees in, lower down. Good. From here, arms open to a T. Legs are in tabletop. We're going to do some twisting. The legs go over to the right. Your left hip will lift off the mat, and then you come back to center. So now we're rotating from the lower half of the body. Inhale, twist the legs over to the side. Exhale, use your core to bring the legs back to center. You want to keep your shoulders glued onto the mat the entire time, so don't let your upper body lift up at all. And then let's start to activate the legs a little bit. Squeeze your inner thighs. Feel the entire midline connected. We're going to roll onto our side now. Let's go ahead and lay onto our right side for side lying leg series. We're going to find that lift up of our bottom obliques, and we're going to start to lift and lower our top leg for side lying leg lifts. I want you to think about lifting from the outer hip and thigh, and then squeezing the inner thighs to touch. Making sure we're still aware of our core as we start to reach the leg forward and kick the leg back. Side lying leg kicks. We're doing 8 each. Flexing that foot forward, pointing the toe to brush the leg back into that hip extension. You're trying to get that leg behind you without adjusting the spine. You're keeping that neutral position through the back, through the hips, as just that leg reaches back. We're going to start to take it into bicycles. Reach the leg back, bend the knee in, reach the leg straight forward. We're just challenging our core here in these bicycles. Can your core keep your torso absolutely still as that top leg moves freely? Keep lifting through your bottom obliques. Keep pulling that top hip forward as you brush the leg back, and then relax. We're going to lift the leg up to the ceiling and then lower the leg back down. We're in a turned out position through both legs, getting into those rotators of your hips a little bit. As you close the legs, feel the glutes wrapping together on the back side of the body. Feel your inner thigh spinning forward. And then go ahead and come into mermaids next. We're going to lift up from your top oblique, squeeze your left waist to lift the body up, also known as banana. We're doing 4 total here. And then you're going to lay onto your stomach. We're coming into swimming prep next. You're going to lift opposite arm and leg off the mat. As you lift, you're also lifting your upper back into that nice spinal extension. We're keeping our gaze down to your mat so that your neck stays nice and long. You should feel this connection from opposite shoulder to opposite hip, like a diagonal running across the body, forming 2 or 1 X across the back. Feel the glutes active here to lift the leg. We're going to start to lift both arms, both legs, and then lower down. Inhale to lift everything up. Exhale to lower. Make sure your core is still active here, even in this prone position, laying down. Last one. We're going to pull the elbows in, reach the arms overhead. Modification, you can lower the legs down, but try to keep everything hovering. Elbows are reaching in and then arms reach overhead to a V. If the legs are lifted, keep pulling the quads away from the floor and then relax back down. Let's come into our swan here. Inhale, lift up to that extension. Exhale to lower. Lifting up any amount, whatever works for your body today. Making sure that we're still keeping the core engaged, even though it's getting stretched in this position. We want to make sure we're not just dumping into the lower back. Really nice, everyone. From here, you're going to lift your hands up, then lift your back, reach the arms overhead again, pull the elbows in, and then lower the back down. So we're going to go arms, lift your upper back, reach the arms overhead, pull the elbows in, lower your back down, then lower your arms. As you're doing this flow, the legs can stay down for this one. So we're really just targeting that thoracic spine. Make sure those arms are just reaching to a V overhead. They're not too close. And then you're going to push back into a child's pose here. Knees are wide. Reach the arms forward and breathe into the back body. Really let your hips just sink down towards your heels. And then we're going to come on over and come onto the other side, laying down for side lying series. Starting with leg lifts, lifting your top leg up hip height and then lowering down. Making sure your spine is in line with the back edge of your mat and both of your feet are pitched forward slightly to the front corner of your mat. As we're coming into this side lying leg kicks here, brushing forward, brushing back, I want you to feel like you're pulling your top thigh bone away from your hip socket here. So you're trying to create space in that joint. And then again, we're just always bringing our awareness back to our core. Make sure your center is stabilizing your torso here so that there's no movement happening in the trunk of the body or in the upper body. Let's take it into bicycles, brushing the leg back, bend the knee in, reach the leg forward. In this bicycle, we're really challenging that pelvic stability. So make sure your hips stay stacked. Reaching that leg as far back as you can keep the hips stacked. Let's come into our leg lifts here. Lift the leg up high as you can this time and then lowering down. We're in this turned out position. Pointing the toe to lift the leg, flexing the foot to lower. Spinning the inner thighs towards the front of the room. And then wrapping the glutes together on the back side of the body. We're going to come into our bananas, or sometimes known as mermaid. We're using our obliques to lift our lower body and our upper body off of the mat. We're doing 4 total here. And then you're going to roll on over to your back. And we're going to come into a little bit more core work here. I want us to bring our legs to tabletop, arms to the ceiling. Come back into that chest lift position, pump the arms. You're coming into half a set of hundreds. You're inhaling for a count of 5, exhaling for a count of 5. We're going for a total of 50. Vigorous pumps from the back of the arms. Keep pulling in from the belly. Modification, just lower that head if you need, and then let's all relax everything down. Really nice, everyone. Extend your legs up to the ceiling. We're going to come into double straight leg lowers. Lower both legs down and then lift both legs back up. Make sure your pelvis stays slightly tucked as the legs reach away from you. And you don't let any tension go into your lower back. So find the range of motion that works for you. Now roll yourself up to seated. So you're just going to rock and roll yourself up and back a couple times, all the way till you're sitting tall onto your mat. We're going to come into a little seated cat-cow here. Round your back on your exhale. Inhale, extend your spine, shine your chest forward. Exhale to round your back. Inhale, articulate up into that extension. Focusing on that rolling forward and rolling off of your sits bones. We're going to take a roll back just halfway, and then you're going to restack your spine, sit nice and tall. Tuck off your sits bones, roll back, dive forward, sit up nice and tall. Continue that flow. We're going to add a twist, rotate, and back to center. Twist, open the arm, and center. As you're twisting, again, we're coming back to that pelvic stability. Keep your hips and your feet glued onto your mat. On this next one, you're going to roll all the way back up to seated, sit nice and tall. Let's flip on over to all fours next. We're going to come into a little bit of scapula work. We're coming into sternum drops. Drop your sternum to the floor as you squeeze your shoulder blades, and then push your sternum away from the floor as you spread the shoulder blades wide across your back. We're starting to wake up the upper body a little bit more. Let's lift your knees and lower the knees. Make sure those toes are tucked. You're lifting on that exhale, lowering on the inhale. Now your belly button is pulling up towards the back of your spine, lifting all the way up to the ceiling. You're going to lift and hold. Breathing, find that nice neutral spine, flat back. Equal weight in your hands and feet, and then lift up to your downward dog. In this downward dog, start to pedal out your feet, lift one heel, lower the other. Breathing into that calf stretch. And then just lower both heels down. Shorten your downward dog just a little bit. Lift onto your toes. Come back into that all fours hover. And then shift back to your downward dog. That's going to be your flow here. Shift onto that hover. And then back into the downward dog. You can add a little bit of articulation through the spine. And then we're going to add a twist. Reach one arm up to the ceiling. Rotate. And back to center. Allow the hips to rotate. Allow the knees to rotate as well. The whole body shifts to the side. Just getting all that weight into that side plank modification. And then heels down, downward dog. Take a twist here. Reach your left arm to your right ankle. Try to pull your left shoulder through. And then you'll switch other side. Both hands down. Open up your downward dog just a little bit as you shift forward into your plank. Just breathe here. Strong push of your hands into the floor. Make sure your belly button is still drawing up to the ceiling. And just find that balance. And let's come down onto your knees. We're going to come into tricep push-ups here. Keep the elbows narrow. You can do modified push-ups or full push-ups. Just make sure those elbows stay tucked into your ribs. And then come into a child's pose. Just get off the wrists for a second. Up next, we're going to come into wide arm push-ups. Let's go ahead and shift forward back into either that full plank or modified plank. This time your elbows reach wide. And then you push yourself back up. Now you'll feel this a little bit more through your pecs, through the front of your chest. Again, up to you if you want full plank or knees down. And then just come back into that child's pose for me one more time. We're going to shift onto all fours. I want you to flip your wrists just to take a stretch here of the wrists. Palms to the ceiling. Take a cat-cow here if this feels comfortable. If not, you can always come onto your fists or just flip your palms to face the floor again. If your palms are up to the ceiling, make sure most of your weight is back in your lower body. Inhale into that extension, exhale into that round. Flip your palms, and then come to seated for me. We're going to just do one last thing here. Into a shoulder stretch. Fingertips face your hips, bend your elbows, and then you'll straighten your arms back up. As you bend your elbows, tuck off your sits bones. As you straighten, rock forward, pull your chest up to the ceiling. Rolling back, and then pushing your chest forward. We're going to come into a reverse tabletop. Walk your feet in a little bit. Roll your hips up to that reverse tabletop position. And then roll your hips back down. Fingertips should be facing your heels. You're trying to open up through the front of the chest as much as possible as you roll up into that bridge. Finding that spinal articulation. And then bring your hips back, legs forward, circle the arms up and overhead, dive forward into your forward fold stretch. Deep breaths here, let everything relax. And then roll yourself up to seated, and you guys are done for the day.